Like to call to order the July 24th meeting of the Platte City Council. Would the clerk please call roll?
Mayor Edwards.
Here.
Council members Weaver.
Here.
Floyd.
Here.
Klein.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Judkins is absent.
Very good. Would you all rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have one change on the agenda, that is action item number 2 should be first consideration instead of third consideration. I welcome a motion to approve the agenda with that change.
Move approval with change.
Second. Motion second, further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like signs. The agenda is approved. Next, we move into our citizens presentation. This is the opportunity for anyone to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda. If we have anyone in the chamber wishing to address the council, they should come forward at this time. And if we have anyone online, Pete?
Not at this time, Doc.
Very good. Just a reminder, we do follow the pillars of character counts and everything that we do. Next, we have consent. For approval?
Second.
Motion and a second on consent. Further discussion? Seeing none, would the council please vote? And would the clerk please post that? And that passed by a vote of 4-0. Next up, we have a public hearing on SQR. Did we publish the appropriate public notice?
Public hearing notice was published in the Des Moines Register on July 7th, 2025.
Very good. Pete?
Thank you, Your Honor. So we're very happy to report that we received an excellent bid for the soil quality restoration program this year. Winning the low bid was once again A+ Lawn and Landscape. They've been our partner for the past 2 years. The part of it, though, that I'm most excited about is that they quoted us a price per square foot that is lower than what we paid last year. Last year, we were at 14 cents per square foot. This year, we came in at 11. So we're real happy about that.
What's that due to? Peak competition or just reduce costs and materials?
I think it's volume.
Okay.
So we're going much bigger this year because we have some additional grant dollars that are going to allow us to go past the 80 that we try and knock out each year, add another 30 in a very targeted neighborhood, the Angel Park neighborhood. You may recall the Lulu Dickey's master's or PhD work compared Angel Park performance to Shadow Creek. Found that Angel Park was not performing as well, didn't have some of the same rules in place when we developed that neighborhood. So let's get in there and help that space perform a little bit better.
How many total properties are we working with this year?
Our goal will be to get to about 100, 110.
That's over the 80 I think we've done in the past.
Correct. But we've confirmed with the contractor that they've got the people and the equipment to handle that increase in the number of properties. So now it's the conversion project. We are scheduling our neighborhood meeting, virtual meeting for folks who would be participating. That'll be in mid-August. We'll have a date finalized on that here, probably still this week. We're having our kickoff meeting with our contractor next week. And Julia has done a wonderful job just keeping people involved. We've got 100 people in the sort of normal program that are interested and another 50 that were interested in the Angel Park. So I think we've got enough interested bodies to fill out our roster.
We're looking at completing the project.
That's key thing that we've learned from doing this. A lot of folks like to oversee when they do the project. So if they want us to contract separately with A+ to C, they can do that. But when they overseed, then they've got a limited fall window when they can get adequate germination. That's really September. We may have given an exception to A+, if it looks like conditions are good toward the end of August and they want to get going a little bit earlier, so they can ensure that they have that good germination period. We can evaluate what the weather forecast looks like. But right now, we're planning to start the Tuesday after Labor Day and be finished by the end of September. Punch list in October.
Pete, how is this looking with respect to the irrigation situation? I know when I did SQR, I had to do a lot of watering. And how are we balancing that with this irrigation stuff?
Right. So all of the participants are residential properties, no commercial properties this year. So is because we've now walked back the restrictions on lawn watering for residential, these folks would be able to use their automatic sprinkler system or a mere manual system to go ahead and get that germination done. We did discuss with A Plus when we awarded the contract, they were a little bit nervous about moving forward with seed, not knowing where we would be with the ban, but now that that's been walked back, we'll watch it carefully through August and then see where we're at with capacity for the larger system.
It's only walked back partially though, right? And it could be reinstituted if things change at all.
Now, I certainly hope that's not it.
I mean, I guess it just makes me nervous. We do this and now all of a sudden we reinstitute an irrigation ban. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you handle it. I guess I'm asking.
So part of how we handle this is trust our partners at Central Iowa Water Works. They don't want to go back into the ban, and they came up with a number of sort of very conservative tendencies that they were working with that before they were willing to get to the point where we are today, where they relaxed the ban. Even if you don't water though, you do need to put some water on the compost to keep it from kind of blowing around, right? You need to help it kind of lie down and get integrated into the rest of the yard. So there will be some water use as a result of that. There's no way around it. We're taking some risk here, but with the evidence we've heard from Central Iowa Water Works in the past week, and I feel pretty good that we're going to be in a good spot. And if Mother Nature continues to provide for us the way that she has, then that will solve a lot of the challenge.
I think, Councilmember Weaver, another consideration we could have, we're in that situation, we're talking September, so we're talking a couple of weeks now, is similar to what happened with some of the new sod permits that were allowed to move forward. If we have the addresses for all of these folks. And so we could also have an exception, because of this program to allow those folks to water. We had some of those exceptions if they were putting in new landscaping or new sod. But we'll be able to track it on the irrigation meters because we know the addresses and where the SQR program, similar to what we do with the new sod. So at least we would have the ability to track it if it ever became necessary.
I get that, the optics of that on a city program.
Right.
That we are
Fair.
doing, and now we're gonna give them exceptions. Doesn't look great. If it were to come to that, I obviously hope it doesn't.
Yeah.
And we'll have plenty of opportunities to discuss that here and get direction from the council. If you feel like this is going in a space that we want to postpone the start to see if we can get it to drier weather or free up more capacity, it wouldn't be the end of the world to say, all right, we're going to wait a couple of weeks into September until the restrictions potentially are further relaxed.
Other questions or comments for Pete?
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion is second to close public hearing. Before we do so, is there anyone online or in the chambers who wishes to address council on this matter? Seeing no one come forward, seeing no one online, council, please vote, close public hearing. And will clerk please post that? Public hearing is closed by a vote of 4-0.
Move the resolution approving plans and specs.
Second.
Motion is second to approve plans and spec. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that? And that passes by a vote of 4.
Move receipt of bids.
Second.
Motion is second to receive bids. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that? Bids are received by a vote of 4-0.
Move the resolution awarding the contract, the 2025 Clyde Soil Quality Restoration Cost Share Program to A Plus Lawn and Landscape for $93,500.
Second.
Motion is second on the resolution. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that vote? And that passes by a vote of 4-0. Thank you. Amanda?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for adopting the amended agenda tonight to call this our first consideration of ordinance 1164. You all may recall, this is actually the third time we're in front of you about this. However, after consulting with legal on our change to the total above grade floor area, there was thought that that could be considered a substantive enough change that we would have to technically have a first consideration and then waive the second and third tonight. Though that was brought up during the public hearing, so we're good on that part. We just get to do our first with waiving if you all are comfortable with that. There are no other changes. The code section reference that was updated to be more specific, I think, is the only other one that we've made. So with that, staff does recommend approval of the version that's in your packet tonight. Also in there is a ADU fact page. So if you have any additional questions you think are likely to come up, or if you receive any from the community, please pass them along and we will evaluate adding those if we think it's going to be a recurring question. And there's also a graphic just to help differentiate visually the difference between an addition and an ADU with that kind of cross access and openings. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Any questions, Eric?
Just want to clarify, Amanda, that, again, basements, garages are not included in the total grade living area then, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And ADUs are permitted up to 1,000 square feet. So they don't have to be 1,000 square feet, right? Somebody could put a 500 or 600 square foot bedroom in if they wanted to,
Yes.
or 50% of principal dwelling above grade total. Okay, so if they had, 2,200 square feet, they could make it, 1,100 square feet.
Correct. Mhm.
Okay.
Further questions?
One suggestion, I don't recall on the FAQ, you might want to add some question about parking.
Oh, yeah, we'll get that one added.
Standard answer for that.
Yes, definitely.
I think that's a pretty common.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions, comments? So legal counsel, we want to suspend the rules first.
If that's the desire of council,
Yeah, I'll move that the rule requiring that an ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at two council meetings prior to the meeting be suspended with respect to ordinance number 1164.
Second.
Motion and second to suspend the rule. Further discussion. Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that vote? Yes, that passes by a vote of 4-0. Our rules are suspended.
I'll move that ordinance number 1164 be considered, placed upon its passage and adopted.
Second.
Motion is second. Further discussion? Seeing none, will the council please vote? And will the clerk please post that vote? That passes by a vote of 4-0. Ordinance number 1164 is declared to have been enacted. Thank you, Amanda. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight is a resolution to approve our CIT contract between Iowa Primary Care and the Police Department. You had a red line version and a clean version in your packets that incorporated some language from city legal. All of that was adopted by IPCA, so there were no issues with that. Once approved, we can move forward into FY 2026 with the program. That will also give us the time we need to address additional funding. Staff asking for approval, and I would take any questions if you have any.
Any questions for the chief? Yes, Eric.
Chief, just clarify, so the new contract stipulates 120,000 from the participating agency, and then we make up the rest, is that correct?
Right, yes, correct.
And then
120,000 this year.
What's that shortfall?
It's not much. I don't know the exact number. It's essentially covering the cost of a new hire, which is going to be around that 120,000, might be a couple thousand different. but
First year is a wash, and that's when we need,
Yes,
because it's stepping, right? It's on a step basis,
steps down 30,000 each year.
30,000 each year, okay.
Yes.
Move the resolution approving crisis intervention contract with Primary Care Association.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the resolution. Further discussion?
Just to confirm, on that contract, last time I think we discussed it, 60 day out for both sides.
180 day.
180.
There's a 60-day period if there are a couple of different provisions. It's generally speaking, it's 180-day opt-out. There is a 60-day provision in there for if funding were to be totally pulled by the state.
Oh,
Further discussion, we have a motion and a second on the resolution. Seeing none, will the council please vote, and will the clerk please post it. And that passes by a vote of 4-0.
Thank you.
Capital projects update, Matt.
Thank you, Your Honor. Start off tonight with us being in the middle of the construction season and also heading into strategic planning next month. Wanted to ask Public Works and Leisure Services to provide an update with a number of capital projects. As you probably saw in the presentation of the packet, Jeff and Richard have a number of things to go through. Wanted to kick off a little bit too, just to give an update on City Hall Phase 1 renovations. Actually, just walk the mayor through that space here before the meeting. We went through a punch list here recently. We're basically down to the point of technology being installed and furniture. So, of course, that's some of the stuff that takes some of the longest time at the end, particularly the technology side with the way our new council chambers is set up. So we are on track for that to have this next council meeting on August 14th in the new space. So this will hopefully be the last time you will be in here for a council meeting for at least a long time. And you'll be in your back in your new council chambers. So we're on track with that with a few last items that are being wrapped up. Drew Johnson with DCI is also here. If there's any questions related to the City Hall projects, and then we'll get into some other ones like Greenbelt Landing that he also oversees as a project manager if there's questions on that. The Phase 2 plans are out on the street right now. We actually, earlier this week on Tuesday, had the pre-bid walkthrough with interested contractors, and I think we had 15 at least that walked through the lower level, the Phase 2. So we're seeing a lot of attraction for this project as well from contractors. So those will be receive the bid lettings on August 5th. And then those bids and proposed construction contracts for Phase 2 will be presented to you at your August 28th. So that's a little bit on the City Hall project. And unless there's any questions, I'll turn it over to Jeff to jump into public.
Matt, real
works.
quick, on the technology side, I know that there's, when our public safety facility here, there was a lot of hiccups on that, specifically from a supply capability for a lot of electronic parts. We see that out there.
We actually have all of the equipment sitting in the council chambers in boxes right now. I would love for them to be out of the boxes and being installed. That's coming. Their hope is to have all the technology installed by the end of next week. So thankfully, this time we do not have a supply issue.
Great.
We are reusing some pieces of equipment like the Crestron controller that we had in the old council chambers, which was updated. We are reusing that in the new council chambers. But other than that, all the AV equipment and TVs and everything, monitors are all on site. And now it's just a matter of getting them installed and tested and programmed and making sure everything works. So we have an extra week in here between your council meetings, which is nice. Your first meeting that will actually be in the space will be your first strategic planning workshop on August 11th. We'll have in that space. So we won't be at the dais for that one. We'll be down at the around some tables, but you'll be in that space for most of that week actually with the strategic planning workshops and the council meeting later that same week. So we are on track. Fingers crossed, all the technology. We'll be testing it as much as we can. Again, as always with a new room, a new setup, we'll have a few things we might need to work through, but we've got the month of August to work through it. And the council will be the only ones meeting in that room the month of August, and then we'll start to stagger in the other boards and commissions coming into the month of September. All right, I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Mayor, Council, good evening. I'm gonna run through some of our projects, I hope. Yes, on the track. Go through some of the projects that we've completed recently, some that we have ongoing and some that we have coming up. I'll give you an idea of where we're at. Each slide you'll see has the project costs. We've let it or closed it out. It's going to be shown there. The first project, Southeast Legacy Point, which is Northwest 161st south of Hickman, was done as part of the Quick Start development there. We had it completed last fall here, got it in time for them to open, and that project has been closed out. Next is the Northwest 99th Court reconstruction. Again, a project we completed here Late last year, got it open, completed the restoration here this spring, except for maybe where Mid-Am came back after we restored it and messed it up to put in streetlights, but we did have it restored at one time. That project is now complete and closed out. You can see the final project cost there. Northwest 114th, which we know very well, did get completed, was scheduled to be completed in 2024. We completed it this spring. This spring went much smoother than last year. Got it done, got it open. Contractor was Alliance, and they finished it up. You see the costs there. We have a little bit of restoration maybe yet to do this fall. I think there's a few weeds growing that they need to clean up. We contacted them about that, but we are continuing with keeping on them and trying to get that cleaned up. The other project we have is the Northwest 114th Bridge improvements. As you remember, we lined that up to take place at the same time 114th was closed. Fortunately, the railing on that was a special order item and is being manufactured. We don't have it yet. The rest of the work is done. The bridge deck is complete. So we'll have some work on the railing. Should be here sometime in September. We should be able to finish up. During that time, there will be a 1-lane closure, be flaggers during the day. It should take about a week or so to clean up, but we are close on it and the bridge deck is nice. So, Little Walnut Creek, East Stream Bank, we have completed most of the work there. Restoration remains. As you remember, we got what we considered very good prices on that, so it was nice to close it out. There were some change orders on it, but overall the cost was much less than what the original opinion cost was.
A trail open on that, yeah.
Yeah, that's another project we're getting to, but give me a minute, I'll get to
All right.
it.
No worries.
2024 Country Club overlay. You remember we let that last year with the option to start this spring. This year, contractor actually came in this year and did all the work. It's now open to traffic. The box outs and the ramps are completed. A little bit of restoration remains. We'll get it at this fall here when the weather cools down a little bit.
Citizens very happy with that project too. I thought that obviously you know, that was a priority for the council and people are very happy with the way it's turned out.
Thank you. 2025 asphalt overlay project was Northwest 138 and Lake Point. Contractor has completed most of the work. The overlay is down. The street is in good shape. We still are working on the box outs around the sewers and the ramps, sidewalk ramps, and pavement markings remain on that. But that should be cleaned up here within the next few weeks.
I haven't heard one complaint about it. Oh, you know, talking to them.
Smooth.
We had one hiccup. There was a little bit of a delay from the time they placed the overlay to where they came back for the box outs. And there were some issues with that, but thankfully we're getting those taken care of. And since we've explained it and talked to a few people that did have some questions, seem to be happy and not hearing much at this time.
Remember, we were a little concerned about whether people would accept the asphalt.
Sure.
But I think they're just happy to have it.
Oh, yeah.
The smoothness speaks for itself after what they were driving on. So,
Yeah, there's huge.
And to that point, in Country Club in particular, credit to Chief Rayburn working with the Country Club Owners Association. I think I shared this in my weekly update last week. We reached out to them if they had an interest in putting in, because it's so smooth now. They had some concerns of, is that going to pick up speed? And Chief had an idea. He had received a grant for one new permanent sign, the speed monitoring signs. And we asked Country Club if they would be interested in sharing the cost of another, or basically buying another one so we could put one in both directions on Country Club Boulevard. So
Yes.
yes, they did. They did. It was about $4,000. $4,800. So their board approved that purchase and we worked out an agreement. And so now we'll have some, once we get them installed this fall, we'll have some monitoring, just the permanent ones that'll stay there on Country Club Boulevard, right? Just probably around the dam area or just south of the dam. By the boat ramp. Yeah. Area. And so that was a nice little partnership with Country Club to get that done. And of course, we'll have probably some similar questions, and then you get these brand new roads and nice surface of concerns about speed, but we'll be doing our neighborhood traffic enforcement program related to any of those areas.
I'd rather have that issue than the
Right.
road issue.
Right.
You know, Matt, that's just an example of a public-private partnership and really chief, thinking out of the box thinking. To get neighbors involved to, you know, that's always been an issue with speeding on Country Club, right? So. I love to see that type of public-private partnership that both sides benefit. It's a win-win situation and that's a great way to get, great way to get the community involved. So appreciate that out of the box thinking.
Could you come back to us with the statistics off that camera in a month after you put them up? Just bring.
Yeah,
the data.
Yep, I can pull that data and
Yeah.
and provide you.
Yeah, and that's one thing that was key with the board too, is we said we would provide the data just to show the facts of what we're seeing in terms of speed, you know, percentiles and things like that, in terms of some people think that somebody's speeding when they might be going right at the speed limit. It's just kind of perception. And so now we'll also have regular data coming from those permanent cameras.
All right, next project, 2025 arterial PCC patching. That included some work on Berkshire, the Sheridan Roundabout, south of there a little bit on Berkshire. This is a night work project. It's currently in progress. Contractor is out there working now. He should be, not quite yet, but should be getting there shortly tonight.
I'll drive by on the way home.
They will be there hopefully. It's in progress, like I said. Next week, they should be completing the work out there on the Berkshire and Sheridan area. August 3rd, they'll be moving down to 142nd and University. It's expected to take about 10 days once they get down there for that project. 2025 residential PCC project. The areas that are highlighted there are the areas of concentration this year. Again, this is part of the patching being done in anticipation and next year's overlay project. There'll be again another patching project ahead of that to get the bigger area for the overlay. Contractor has not started this yet. The contractor that we have no doubt will get in there and get it done. It should be starting here sometime in mid-August. Forest Avenue water main, a little section over there by Indian Hills Junior High. This project was scheduled to be completed during the summer while school was out. They're finishing it up and it's looking like they will be complete, and they had better be complete before then. The water main itself is installed. They're cutting over services as we speak. And then, of course, there'll be some restoration here that might run into it, but that will not interfere with the traffic around.
Jeff, before you move on, so that house right there with the fifth wheel, I sold that house a few years back. That's my client that lives there. Just so happens I got a text from her yesterday, proactively from her, complimenting us with the work that the Absolute Group did and how they made what could be very painful, fairly painless for them. So that was something she sent to me just out of the blue.
Well, thank you. Glad to hear that.
And that resident has high standards for what she
Yes, you
expects.
know
from
her
the
well.
city.
Yes, that's right. Kate knows her. So
Good.
She does have very high standards
She does.
and she was very complimentary. So I just wanted to share that.
Well, it works sometimes. Thank
And
you.
Jeff, real quick on
Yeah.
that PCC patching project on Country Club West. So they,
Yeah.
what's PCC stand for?
Portland Cement Concrete. That's your cement concrete that we're putting out there. The other would be HMA patching, which would be hot mix asphalt.
So we're gonna pull out the bad spots on that and then do the overlay next year. Is that the
Yeah,
expectation?
we'll get the bad spots taken care of, get them patched this year. Again, then there'll be some more areas in this area because the overlay will be a larger area next year than just these streets, but we'll do some more patching out in this area next year ahead of the asphalt overlay.
Next year's the
Yep.
asphalt over. Gotcha.
Little Wanakee Creek East Trail. It's in progress. As you can see what it looks like out there, it's very susceptible to rain, and we've had a lot of rain lately, so there's not much progress right now. We are still hoping to get that completed here sometime in September or early October. Again, it's very weather dependent and it gets quite muddy out there, so they have been slowed down a little while.
In contrast to the overlay in Country Club, these folks are not.
I know.
Yeah,
We are aware of that.
we are aware.
It doesn't work. Alice's Road Phase 1A, that project is in progress. We're still working on utilities. It's a little bit behind where we'd like to be, but again, it's being impacted by a lot of the rain right now that they have everything pour out. Working on completing the utilities here, still working to get that completed yet this year. Douglas and Berkshire intersection signalization project. Contractors put in all the underground and boxes and the bases for the poles. Poles are scheduled to be delivered August 15th. Contractor needs about 3 days to get the poles up and get the signals in operation. He has 5 days if they're delivered on the 15th because school starts on the 23rd. So we're on a tight schedule, but working on it right now, and the contractor is ready to go and been very cooperative. It's manufacturing, as you remember, on this project, we ordered the poles ourselves, bought them ourselves, and ordered them well in advance because of the long lead time. Originally, it was supposed to be the first week of August. They've only slipped a week, so it's not terrible. It's on schedule. Let me just put it that for now.
On your consent agenda, you saw that we have a 2080 agreement with Waukee Schools. They're contributing a quarter of the cost, with Shule Elementary being on the southeast corner of that intersection.
That too is a welcome addition, Matt, as we look at these public-private partnerships, in addition, you know, and not that Waukee School District is a private, but just looking and searching out where we can find partners to work in these projects, they really create mutually beneficial situations. So appreciate the out-of-the-box thinking from staff.
We're also reaching out to the school district because in all of their, before school starts, communications to families, they'll want to alert them if you're dropping kids off that there's going to be this new traffic movement with the signal.
Next project is Emerald Isle. As you remember, that's being done by the developer. The city will be paying a portion of the cost of that. It's going slowly. Thankfully, Jim went out there today and did some field engineering, and I think did some things to help move it along a little bit quicker. Made some suggestions, help one of the businesses out there that's driveway will be impacted. We'll close it once and get it done in one pour rather than splitting it twice and working twice as long to keep them impacted. So it was a good move by Jim and a good catch, a good opportunity to speed that project up. But with everything going on, it's still looking like October-ish before everything out there is finished. And then Alice's Road reconstruction, update you a little bit on that. As you remember, we had phases 1, 2, 3, and 4 to start with. We now have a 1A, a 1B, 2, 3, and 4, but we've kind of flipped construction as we looked at it. As the stormwater is developing, we'll be talking to you about that here before too long as that plan is finished up. It makes more sense to do stage 4 first. It's also where we've moved all the federal funding. But if we work from the creek back to the north, we can pick up the stormwater as we develop it rather than putting in infrastructure that has no way to get out. So we will be moving forward with this, working for that schedule there of 26 being 1B, 27 jump ahead and do 4, do section phase 3 and 28, and then phase 2 and 29, which includes the Douglas intersection and the completion of Douglas to the east and west.
Some of those intersections, we've come to an agreement with Waukee, again, the stop signs, the roundabouts, where do we stand with that?
So we have an agreement with Waukee at the major crossings. The one that's left, Boston Parkway was already agreed to in phase 1A, which is being constructed right now. The next one will be at Douglas.
Agreed to stop sign, or I mean, signal
roundabout.
or roundabout?
Roundabout.
Okay.
So,
Delwood.
Delwood was one that was a question. We have agreed to allow that one to be, it's actually not going to be signalized initially. This is the one that's just south of Douglas. It's actually going to be just an open cut intersection because the traffic demand won't be there for quite a while. So that was one where we kind of pulled back on a roundabout there. And then so we could move on to Douglas and Alice's Road for that being a roundabout. So there'd be 3 roundabouts along this corridor: Berkshire, Douglas, Boston. So they're spaced out just a little bit more, and then we would have open intersections in between there with the option, if traffic demanded it, to add signals to it. We are putting turn lanes in at those intersections if we ever were to need that. But again, the traffic would have to ramp up over the next 30 years to demand signals there. And with having roundabouts at good spaced out locations, traffic may choose to go down to those anyway, particularly to Boston and then Berkshire to the north. So we felt like we came up with a good agreement with Waukee. They're supportive of this. Of course, Berkshire is all Clive, And then the Douglas one was 3/4 Clyde, 1/4 Waukee, and then 50-50 split on Boston. So I think we found a good compromise on that will definitely provide for a safe corridor and manage speeds through that corridor, particularly this being a heavy residential area for both communities. Will be important and help with a lot of pedestrian movements as well, because we have a trail on one side that will connect down to the Greenbelt Trail on this roadway. It was a good compromise.
This project, we're also working with a consultant. As you know, we put a professional services agreement together. It didn't cover quite everything that we needed to do. We started and we ran into some issues of having to do some environmental work by some of the changes we made and moving all the federal money into phase 4. That federal environmental work was about halfway through, but now we don't have to finish it. We've don't have it signed yet, but have agreed to a categorical exclusion for phase 4, meaning we will be done with the environmental portion of that. We're gonna have to rework that contract a little bit with the contractor to identify the extras we're doing with some of the stormwater. That will be to take all the stormwater on phases 1 through 4, all the way to about 60%, where we know everything's going, we know how it's gonna work, we're ready to go. We'll be bringing that change order to you, second meeting in August, along with a professional services agreement. We'll talk more about it then. I'll get the details as we put it together for phase 4 to start the design on it. With it starting in 2027, we'll want to bid it sometime late 26, early 27. So we need to get that started. As we start looking at that, especially with the being federalized, there's a little bit of more of a time lag on what we can do to get things out. We need to get on that schedule. So we'll be bringing that to you. That PSA will also include some work for all the acquisitions for phases 4, 3, and 2 as we work through it, so we can get ahead of those as we start working.
Who's the contractor?
What's that?
Professional service contractor?
Snyder has it right now. They're doing the phase 1 scope and the preliminary work for conceptual design for the rest of the phases 2 through 4.
We'll note too, phase 4 also we still have an outstanding ask, community project grant, the Congressman done for additional funding, $1 million dollars for phase 4. We have some funding already secured through our MPO request for both us and Waukee. That's moved to phase 4. We have a $1 million ask that's still outstanding, community project grant program.
When do they make that announcement?
We are unsure. We don't know at this point.
I'll reach out to staff, see if they can give us more of a heads up on where we stand. Thank you.
Future street improvements, just as we get ready to move into the strategic planning and the CIP process. These are things we have in there right now in the current CIP, things we've identified. We'll be finishing up the street study here, scheduling some time with Matt right now, the update to go over that information. Be able to discuss a little bit more after that. They'll be looking at the 2030 projects that we're putting in and adding for that and seeing if there's any adjustments we need in here because of what the new street study identifies.
When you say future, is that next year? Like
Well-
University Avenue, 128, 146.
Next 5 years.
2027.
The next 4 years are the years are there, 26, what we have scheduled 27, 28, 29. But we don't have, working on this project, it's the next Hickman Adaptive Control Project, I'm afraid.
Real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Go back to that last one on the asphalt overlays.
Yep.
I see 2026 is that asphalt overlay cut to the west we talked to on Manny Hawthorne and some of those proposed streets. What about 2028? What was that?
We will not, 1.4 million will not cover all of Country Club West.
Okay.
So the intent is that by the time we're done with these projects, everything in Country Club and Country Club West will be overlaid. So we're kind of alternating between the two, going back and forth, doing a little bit up there, coming back next year. 2030, I'm going to guess we'll say, I'm not positive because I haven't looked at the numbers yet and how far it's going to go, but it might say Country Club West again, and then 2031 back to Country Club as we can finish that out. So, yep.
That was the 5-year plan to do all of Country Club West.
2050, we'll get over to 89. 2058.
That's what I should.
University Boulevard Pump Station relocation, project. We're in design on that. We're getting somewhat close, but still trying to identify the funding for it. So,
We're being aggressive with trying to pursue federal funding, flood mitigation funding for this. We've got, of course, the brick was our initial go on this one, and now we're identified some other funding programs at the state and some other federal programs that might be able to provide federal resources to help mitigate the cost of this important project of moving this pump station out of the floodplain.
One of the options is an EDA, federal EDA grant, and because acronym we haven't heard for a while, NIPA. We called NIPA when it first came up in PO, but now it's a standalone entity. We're still a member. And as part of our membership, they provide some grant assistance. And specifically when we're dealing with EDA, because that's what the Iowa Planning Association kind of exists to leverage. They're helping us kind of pitch our ideas to them right now, see whether or not we can make this work.
They should have that. We have that, and that's in the queue right now.
quick update to this. Our cost has gone down. There was some more money that was identified for us in grants. This is, our share is now $3,170,000. So it's going in the right direction. Phase one, as you know, is in progress. Phase two was just let a couple weeks ago. United got hit again. So those changes will be taking over sometime this fall when they go from phase one to phase two, or from the outside to the inside work on the interstate there. Phase three, again, will be bid next year about this time. That will be the Hickman work, 111th, where we'll really be impacted. So it is continues, and we'll continue to work with them on.
See what's going to those on the university off ramp.
Yes, there's board. I don't know what they have for
Started doing
shoulder work,
shoulders,
stuff like that.
Some of the stormwater basins that are down in the ditch area.
Looking like it's close.
Yeah.
So intent it would be that everything would be finished up in September, October-ish range when we switched from the outside to the outside.
To the other side, outsides.
Yep. Southwest Mixmaster, there is an arrow on the slide. The design work has already started. They're working on it, not the work itself. And at the first phase that will be let about July of 26 will include mainly work on the interior outside the travel portion and the medians and the islands and stuff like that. So this probably will not impact or should not impact traffic until about 2028, which means now we're off the Hickman interchange, and
Yes.
we're just moving
Gonna be continuous in this corridor.
moving the
Much needed,
issues.
but continuous in this corridor.
This one you see is setting a public hearing set tonight for the repair. There's a water main break there on 88 or 86th Street earlier this spring. Maybe even the winter. It was cold. March sometime. It was a cold night. I remember that. But we will be letting that. It's estimated about $85,000. Includes taking out the sections that were undermined, a little recompaction there, along with putting the concrete back and asphalt overlay to match, along with the approaches that were undermined, and a little bit of sidewalk work. City Hall improvements, working on this. I'll let Matt talk a little bit, but we're in the design process, and it looks like this fall, we're going to try to get the concrete approach off of 111th stubbed in there so that the asphalt work can take place next spring with minimal interruption.
Yeah, this is so with all the improvements we're making to City Hall, the parking lot hasn't been touched in some time, and we know we have a lot of sidewalks that are in disrepair. And so looking at the opportunity, particularly with the bids that we're hoping to get, there is some budget that's been allocated within that overall project budget to do. This is just an asphalt overlay of the parking lot. But we need to do the approach in concrete. It's existing concrete approach. And we're going to try to do it in a way where we're actually going to take the concrete approach a little further to the west than it is today. So then when we do the asphalt overlay, we can stagger, we can phase it and still keep the library open. So we'll do the north portion of the parking lot and one overlay, and then the south portion, so we can at least keep a portion of the parking lot open. to try to keep the library open at the same time. When we do the concrete approach, though, we'll have to shut down. It won't be for very long, but we'll have to shut down the library. We're going to try to time it where we have the folks in the phase 2 area, the north part of the building, actually out before we start construction. We'll see if that timing works out in mid to late September. I know Drew in the back of the room is probably the most anxious on that one, to try to time that right with the contractors coming in to do the renovations of phase 2, which we're looking to start that at the end of September. So if we're able to get the timing right, that'll set us up really nice for next spring to do the asphalt overlay and then do all the sidewalk work. So we're going to be adding, there's some deficiencies we have on ADA ramps that we need to address if we're doing this work. And then also installing some bollards in front of the city hall entrance as part of the security plan that we had for the building. And so we can do that as a part. We have to replace those sidewalks. If you've walked them, they're in pretty rough shape. We have to replace those sidewalks anyway, so that's the time to do that. So this would be, most of this work would happen after all the renovation work would be done, and we would try to time the overlays before we move everybody back in on the phase 2 area to get the parking lots done. We've also stubbed out electrical for both phase 1 and for phase 2 outside of the building to be able to tie in to any future electrical car chargers. So we did not have the actual purchase of the car chargers in the budget. We had been pursuing some grant dollars for installation of those, as well as potential for a solar array as an addition. Of course, we want to check the math on that to make sure it works out for us. But those would be post any of these renovations, but we at least put ourselves in a position to be able to add those at a future date if we so choose for both. There's one conduit that will be on the north end of the building for example, the community development department's vehicles, if we ever wanted to switch those to electrical from the gas powered that we have today. And then a public charger that we would have in front of the library, similar to what we have out here, where it would be one charger that could go for 2 spots. So we're just putting ourselves in that position and getting it, the conduit wiring done in the building, so we don't have to go back into the building, and they're stubbed out on the outside of the building.
Our block reconstruction, we are finalizing or working on the design of this. I'm not quite finalizing, but we're getting closer. There are a few moving parts in there we're working with. Plan on letting this sometime in January, construction next year. Little Walnut Creek West Stream Bank, along with the Little Walnut Creek West Trail, working on both of those. And although the stream bank itself will be let sometime here for construction next year, the trail needs to be designed too. If we want to get the permitting for this, we need to make sure we have the elevations of the trail final. So we're finalizing the trail design at the same time, so we don't impact the permits. Working on that. With the trail probably being let sometime next fall for construction in 2027.
This will get us all the way, the trail all the way to the Waukee border on Warrior.
But does it connect to Washington Street?
It will on the south end, right, Richard?
No, not yet. We had to wait for them to figure out what they're doing with the Little Walnut Creek Bridge.
Oh, that's right. So there's a bridge where you see the kind of the red area touch Warrior Lane on the kind of the left part of the map. They are working on what they're going to do with the culvert at Little Walnut Creek. Depends on what they do with that in terms of how the trail connection will come up to the street. We're actually just shortening the trail just short of Warrior Lane, pending what they're going to do in terms of where that alignment's going to come together. So we'll have the trail ready to go there. It's just a matter of where they're going to land with their connection on Warrior Lane. Then we'll have another connection that goes north up to Warrior Lane as well, into a residential neighborhood. But that'll be something we'll have to talk with Waukee of what that crossing looks like on Warrior Lane, because it'll be a temporary situation. We have an asphalt overlay that we put on Warrior Lane. Eventually down the line, we'll urbanize that street section to likely a 2-lane or super 2-lane with turn lanes. And that would probably be when we do the more formal crossing connections, or maybe even go under the road potentially. But we wouldn't do that in the current conditions. We just put an asphalt overlay on it. So it'd be a grade crossing with some protections at that point. But we've got a couple of years to kind of figure out how Waukee's going to align on that other side before we bid this out.
Last part of the Little Walnut Creek project is mitigation bank. I know we've put everything in place and are finalizing the agreements, working on getting that. Once we get everything agreed to, we can proceed with looking at the construction of the mitigation bank itself.
And the revenue that will come as a result. We're working on.
Swanson Boulevard Railroad crossings, we're looking at it. Railroad had a derailment here a few weeks ago. Had to come out and do some repairs while they were there. Our inspector, Tony Clemenson, also, we had to pay for a little bit, but got him to tear out part of the crossing there on the east crossing and put an asphalt, replaced the asphalt there, smoothed it up, made that crossing a lot better on the east end. The west crossing is actually in the Chicago Bridge and Iron. I ran into someone, their engineer, here this weekend. He mentioned that, the railroad's trying to push him to close that crossing. They're discussing whether they want to do that or not. But I told them we were interested in at least improving it if they weren't going to close it. And he said we could talk some more. So we made a little bit of progress with it. We got a ways to go. We'll have to work with the railroad. I know the railroad does not want to improve it. I guess, if we look at a grant of any kind, if it's even eligible, railroad would not be interested in putting any money into this for the few little amount of traffic that they're getting there. Someone from Chicago Bridge and Iron indicated that they're using it less and less all the time too. So.
Yeah, ideally, it'd be nice if that crossing went away. And we also have in the CIP is to do an overlay on patching overlay on Swanson. Our hope is we'd like to get the crossings figured out and do an overlay on that street in a couple of years.
Did that derail? I remember when it derailed, did it derail, swerving, this somebody coming down the bike trail?
I never heard the official result, didn't see the official report.
Yeah, swerve from a guy walking his cat.
Yeah, can't confirm or deny that, so.
Nor can I.
WRA Common Trunk Project, phases 1 and 2 will impact us. The red section there is phase 1. They're getting ready to let that to start this fall. That will be from just west of 114th Street to actually just west of I-3580.
Yeah.
And it goes over to west of 128th where it crosses up into Urbandale. That will be phase 1. Phase 2 is from 73rd Street up to where it started there, west of the interstate. Working on design with them right now, looking at some potential realignment in a section. Working on the 60% plans. Also just got something back, the easements they need for phase 1. We've agreed to them, I think, waiting for legal to get their final okey dokey on it and we can move forward.
You carry your victory up there on your trees and your.
Not mine. I think that was a group effort, if I understand it correctly, but we did, I think the agreements that they had in place, their procedure was to tell you could put trees back, you had to identify the trees, you had to plant the trees, and then they would reimburse you for them. Very little flexibility for what the options were. We worked with them to get that changed to where we do get a payment. The payment comes to us to use as we feel fit within some certain guidelines as far as it's environmentally improving the area. So that has been approved and a lot of credit goes to you on that one. Thank you.
Technical committee,
Well,
you bent their arm with it.
we'll help
Thing to
them.
note with the phase 2 as well is that it will impact trail segments, particularly on the east end. So that will be an opportunity for us to be replacing some trail segments. We know that pavement, particularly between that trail pavement between 73rd and 100th, not as far as 100th, but particularly west of 73rd, that'll give us an opportunity to, as a part of the project, get some of that trail replaced. We're also looking at opportunities where we can abandon some of our lines to commingle with the WRA sewer. So lots of opportunities, but it's going to be messy area when we do that, particularly the phase 2 through all of that. Now, not all of it goes through the greenbelt. Some of it goes through the edges of the greenbelt, particularly west of 100th Street. That stays pretty far north of the main greenbelt area, but that stretch between 100th and 86th Street, 100th and 73rd will be messy through there, just cutting through the sewer, another sewer through that space.
The other thing we have is water projects. Of course, we have our annual large meter valve replacement project. That's part of it. 26, we've got Harbach. I put the University Boulevard pump station and I did not cross out Forest Avenue because we already slipped it in and are completing it. We talked about it earlier. University Boulevard pump station, of course, it's funding dependent. If we cannot acquire funding, then potentially the Northwest 78th and 80th Street project may have to be pushed around to accommodate that boulevard or the pump station relocation. That's to be determined. We know that 28 will be doing the Sunset Clark reconstruction. 28 might become then the 78th and 80th. We'd do it before we did the 84th and 5th Clark, but it's all funding dependent. We'll be looking at through the CIP process this year. And then in 29, we'll have Colby Avenue reconstruction and be putting some water replacement in there when we do that. As a reminder, the intent for both Colby and Sunset is full depth asphalt. We'll put in concrete curb and gutters and then place everything in between asphalt. The idea that if it needs repaired, you can in short order mill off a couple inches and put a couple inches back in and keep moving on that. And with that, that's what we have going. I'll turn it over.
Just a few
Yes.
things.
Quick question. Can you give us an update on where we stand with Silver Star at 156 Heckman and that road construction?
That was the Emerald Isle update.
That was the Emerald Isle, yeah.
Okay.
That's the developer building the roadway.
Yeah, it's in progress. Process. They're a little bit behind. It's probably October before they actually get their improvements finished sometime. It's the one Jim did some network this morning with and kind of helped them along a little bit. So that would be that.
Alrighty, I don't have nearly as many slides, so I'll be a little bit quicker. First one, couple of our couple multi-year projects that have been really a team effort between multiple departments. So in the case of Indian Hills Woods, it's been a lot of work with community development, public works doing the stream restoration, and then the leisure services team working to get the bridge and trail done. It's a great project. If you haven't been out there, to encourage you to get out there and see it. Between the creek that's now got pretty much a fully established landscape around it, and the trail and the bridge just turned out to be a really nice space. And every time we've talked to neighbors, I think they're pretty happy with how the result of how it turned out. It's really fun to kind of see now with the natural resource team, they've been really able to jump in and get this landscape the way we want it with all the native plantings and trees and shrubs that we put out there. I know Ted's received tons and tons of phone calls from a resident, and I don't think you've gotten one from him for a while. So I think we're in a pretty good shape out there. But it turned out, it's been a really nice project and we're excited to see how it continues to mature over the next few years. The next one, another multi-year project. I really want to thank Brian in the back here for helping us out on this one. He really held the contractor's feet to the fire to get this over the finish line. It's been a little bit of a struggle getting the detention basins out there done in a way that they were built as they were designed to do. We're finally there and really just down to a couple punch list items, but essentially the park is complete minus a little bit of seating and replacement of some sidewalk panels out there. Happened to talk to Scott last weekend. He's just still thrilled about it and they're very excited. They're going to donate a bench out there. So we'll end up with another bench out there in the park as well. And him and Julian family are going to donate a little bit of money for that. So we're excited to get that done probably this fall. We've been working to make sure that the pond continues to look nice like we have the other ponds out there. Haven't had nearly the feedback as we have on the Shadow Creek Pond, but we constantly
Positive feedback.
we're starting. We flipped it. We're going in the right direction.
Compliments.
Yeah.
Like that.
Lots of good fish out there though, and landscape establishment's gonna take a little bit of time out there, so probably another year or two till that starts to look really good. But in the areas that have just got seeded earlier this year, where I've seen some flowering, so we know that the right seed got down, and by next year it should look pretty good out there.
Next, who's that title of the ponds are.
Yeah, you know, like, they are now complimentary, but you should have done it reverse, right? Like,
I think
out there, they were crazy. Well, what is that?
Yeah, ponds are 10.
Yeah.
Like that.
I think Pete had James forward any word pond to Ted's email. It comes into the city system.
Auto forward, yeah.
I like it.
Next one here is Greenbelt Landing. This is one we've been talking about for a long time, and happy to report that we're almost 40% complete with the overall project. Right now, we're looking at probably substantial completion by the end of the year. full completion probably won't be till May. A few things like landscaping and some of those things that will finish up once winter breaks next year. But really making a lot of progress, although other than parking lot, don't see much of it yet. Probably the next 4 to 6 weeks, you're going to really see a ton of progress with the area around the building and the steel going up for the covered patio. You're going to start to see the festival lawn really start to take shape, as well as the area around the playground and the playground itself. So you're going to see a ton of changes here probably between now and the middle of September, which will be really exciting to see.
It'll stop raining.
Yeah, if it'll stop raining.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
When does
It's a
the
muddy
artwork
mess out
go
there
up?
right now.
What's that?
When does the artwork go up?
So probably not till next spring. We're working with him to try to get some of the steel structure up this fall. So we don't have to bring a crane in after everything else is done.
Right.
But then he'll come back in when pretty much everything else is done next spring and put all those little sails up.
Right.
We're also expect him to probably be in town sometime in August to check the site out and kind of meet city staff, the council if you want, do some engagement with Pete and Molly on for social media and some of the communications that we do. So excited to get him into town here. Once we have a date where he's going to be in town, I'll have Matt get that out to the council and what we're going to kind of do that.
Status on the playground on that project.
So right now it's targeted for probably the second week in September. What we're trying to do is fit it into a window with getting enough of this stuff done, as well as the playground installer as well. So
So we talked, variety clubs aware of that.
yep, they get weekly updates from us.
Right.
Although in the past couple of weeks, there hasn't been a lot of updates other than it's wet out there,
Right.
which is kind of the story of a lot of our projects. But yes, we make sure to keep them up on a regular basis. Signage concepts, we'll be bringing those to the council, probably the second meeting in August. We're working behind the scenes with the Smith Group design team to get the concepts put together so they match the Oxbow's theme of this district, as well as working with the individual donors that we have to make sure the donor recognition signs look in a good way. We've also been working with Friday. They're going to do a sign and kind of talking about Ashley and why they named the playground after her. So very excited to bring those forward to you as well. And then earlier, we have the contract extensions that'll get us through the remainder of the project. Obviously, the intent was to get the project done by about now, but a number of things between weather and delays in getting the EPA approval just push things back. So we feel like we're in a good spot now. Like Matt said, if it stops raining, to get this wrapped up substantially by the end of the
Be
year.
this week, but it'll stop raining.
That's all.
Any of those signs need to be coordinated with Icon?
Yes, we have one for the water trail access point. Actually reached out to Cole earlier this week to just ask what we need to do to kind of get that figured out and coordinated.
Trying to figure out a way where we can take a little bit of the theme that we've got for the overall signage package that reflect the icon piece as well, and kind of blend them together.
Good.
So Linear Park, this is the project that we've been talking about lately, and finally construction got going out there. Just a quick photo, but essentially there's nothing left out there. We have a bare site, and then if it stops raining, we'll get going on underground work here pretty soon and grading for the overall site. Targeting probably the second full week in August to do underground utilities and start on that underground detention basin. So once it gets dried up, we'll get moving here pretty quickly on that. Targeting not substantial, but a pretty good completion by the end of the year, with coming back in the spring with landscaping and some of those kind of final things like that.
Where are those basins gonna go again, Richard?
So there are the underground basin is right under the Great Lawn, right in the middle there, just north of that. And then we have, I believe 5 bioswales throughout the park. Right there, those kind of darker areas, 1, 2, 3, and I think there's one more over there. Yep, 4.
And then underneath the great lawn is where the vault structure
Under
is.
the storage and, yeah,
No
underground.
lazy
storage.
river.
No lazy
Lazy
rivers.
River.
Just a splash pad.
Next is just a quick one on the 78th Street Temporary Park, just a quick refresher of what we're planning for this to look like. Initial improvements are underway out there. Staff has been doing a lot of kind of nuisance tree removal out there, cleaning up some of the edges along the adjacent property owners, and starting to kill off a lot of the areas that'll be transitioned to native. We're expecting a lot of the physical improvements that you'll see out there to start coming in next week: soccer goals, volleyball nets, some playground equipment that we've ordered, and then if it dries up out there, we'll start to get all that here in the next week or two. So
Richard, I have a question on
yeah.
that. I've talked to a few people over in that neighborhood, and they're concerned that the park spans both sides of 78th Street.
Mhm.
Is there a safety plan, place for a crosswalk, signage, anything like that?
No, the typical crossing is going to be down there at University Boulevard. What we tried to do as part of that is not really have uses that would go across back and forth. We're trying to keep more of the passive nature stuff on the east side of the street, and then more of the active stuff. So the soccer, the volleyball, the playground all on the west side. So hopefully we don't get a lot of crossing, but there's really not a way unless we want to do some major traffic improvements to do a safe crossing there.
Someday it doesn't get a lot of traffic.
It doesn't.
They're concerned with speed.
Yeah,
Like we get a lot of people going very quickly down.
yeah, I can definitely see that.
And there's some other,
Yeah.
there's some other things that we could look at too with, police department too, and that, once we have these going, to do some extra monitoring on that street.
So the next one is Greenbelt Restoration. So this is really taking all the efforts of the natural resource team and really putting it into actual restoration of the Greenbelt. We just completed the first section of Greenbelt Restoration that was done before the natural resource team was hired. So that's the section between 100 and 8035. That was the one, a contract that we started back in 2021, where we did it full contractor driven in terms of restoration, knowing it would take multiple years to do that. We're just wrapping that up. We're just wrapped that up here. It's looking very good out there. Now we'll turn it over to the natural resource team to be the ones that maintain that and make sure that it stays at a high quality. What we're doing now since then is taking the natural resource team and working with them where they do some of the elements, and then we'll probably hire contractors to do some of the elements. Things that are beyond their capacity, such as large tree removal, might be things that we contract out, but using things like the forestry mower and that team, they're really doing a lot of the understory removals, seeding, kind of working on that revegetation that way. So trying to find different ways that we can tackle this greenbelt restoration with that natural resource team with combination of some of the contract work as well. 3 areas that we're kind of working on simultaneously as part of that over multiple years. The first one is between the interstate and 128th Street. That's something we've been ongoing with just staff work for probably the last 5+ years. We're seeing a lot of really great things happening out there now with without even seeding it. We're seeing a lot of native seed revegetating out there. That's an area where we've used the goats a ton. That's been their kind of primary area for the last 5 years. And the ecological benefits pretty incredible out there, which is the work of cutting the honeysuckle and then letting the goats eat it. A second area that we started last fall is between 128th Street and Country Club Boulevard. We started with a little area just west of 128th Street. We've been working a little bit more to the west this summer. Pete and I have engaged with a lot of residents. Was it on Lakeshore Boulevard? At the very end, those townhomes, they reached out to us. So we've started a communication with them about what's going to be happening out there. A theme you're going to see with a lot of these projects is encroachments. So it'll be a discussion that we talk about probably extensively at strategic planning this year. How do we want to approach that, and what type of policy do we want to develop to manage those type of things?
Woodlands Parkway, the Woodlands townhomes.
Yeah, so the very east end on the north side of the Greenbelt there.
South of Hickman, east of Woodlands
So
Parkway.
we've had some complaints from some residents because they think we're just
Yeah.
tearing stuff out. I mean, have we thought about putting up like placards, not like permanent
Yeah.
stuff, but something that kind of educates?
We certainly can, absolutely. We can take the ones we did over on the 100th, the interstate sign and put those out there.
Kind of let people know what some of
Yeah.
the environmental aspects that are happening and what we're doing to help restore
Yeah.
the green belt, as opposed to the fact that we're just kind of coming in and undercutting all. That's because that seems to be sometimes the
Mhm.
impression that people have, a
Yeah.
misimpression.
Yeah.
You know, we did that with a lot of success on Indian Hills Trail, where we were very proactive with messaging boards. People really felt the ownership, 'cause they understood what we were doing, why we were doing it, and the time frame with that.
Yeah.
And I agree, Ted, the more we can get that information out to citizens, the more they know about it,
And then they appreciate it.
they
Yeah.
appreciate it, they understand it, they feel like they're part of it too,
Yeah.
which they are.
One thing that I would, if you do get questions from residents, one of the hardest parts of this storytelling is helping people understand what it's gonna look like in the future. We can draw nice pictures, but they look like drawings, not the reality. So I would encourage you at that point to remind folks about what that section from Porter Shelter up to 114th looks like today, where the oxbows were restored. And there was a whole lot of vegetation that was basic species taken out and replaced with natives. It's really come back beautifully. And that is the type of restoration that we're looking to achieve in other parts of the green.
I think people just don't want to lose that natural feel.
Yeah.
Right? And
Mhm.
I think sometimes they think that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it can,
Wow, you were there. I mean, when we went out with that one.
Yeah.
And I think it's, and trying to explain that by us doing this restoration, we're trying to keep the natural feel for the long term,
Mhm.
because we have got some invasives and also some tree removals that need to happen of trees that are dying or dead anyway. And so, yeah, how we, but to Pete's point though, is now we actually have some spots in the community community when they, when we get that trail connection reopened under the interstate, hopefully soon. To be able to show people, if you go down to these sections here, we can start pointing to those sections as we work along. And we can put some images out there too, but I think the real life piece is gonna be, and Indian Hills Woods is another example where we did a lot of vegetative restoration as well. That we can, now we have some physical places that are now growing in after a couple of years to show this is what it could look like. Trust us for a little bit, we'll get there, but now we can show some examples. But we definitely can continue to work on the educational material side.
Yeah, we can definitely get some signs out there on the trailhead.
Particularly for time frame.
Yeah.
And then we've used QR codes to point folks to websites on our website where we can show some more visuals than you can put on just one placard too. That was effective for Indian Hill Woods as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Nope, we can do more of that, absolutely. I'd say the last one here is Little Walnut Creek. So this is on top of the work that Jeff is talking about. The natural resources team has taken the lead, working with Ray to handle the honeysuckle removal out there on a big section of that. They basically, Caleb and his team are hitting all the areas on the north side of Little Walnut Creek. There's some areas on the south side that are a little bit more difficult to get there with machinery and things like that. And those are probably some of the areas where we'll work with contractors to get in there, get all the invasive trees and honeysuckle out of there. So kind of continuing to find ways to maximize the natural resource team along with contractors to make sure we get as maximum amount done, really get these spaces to be very, very nice. Next one, this is one that was talked about as part of our budgeting process there. There are sections of the trail that are past their useful life, but we're also not ready to replace them because of projects that we've talked about. The WRA sewer, potential remanders and purchase of the green belt. So this is something that we were able to do as part of the budgeting process, a one-time infusion to replace about 800 feet of the trail west of Interstate 8035. That's an entire chunk, about 800 feet in a row. We'll mill it down and then put a 2-inch lift of asphalt on top of that. And then between 73rd Street and 100th Street, in total, there's about 800 feet. So, but it's not all one chunk. Sometimes it's 20 feet here, 50 feet there, 75 feet there. We're working to get those done this fall. So you'll likely in the next month or two see a contract with a company to go out and take care of that milling and asphalt, which will hopefully then get that trail into a better condition. So we don't get quite as many complaints about the condition of it. And then still the hope is longer term that once some of these projects are figured out, the sewer, the remander, that then we can come in and really redo the trail how we know we want to do it, like we've done in other places. And finally, just a few upcoming projects here. One that's been talked about last year, but putting together and really furthering the concept of how we connect the 86th Street neighborhood into the Greenbelt Trail along that old 82nd Street right away. Next is starting to get in the planning phases of Porter Shelter once we start to wrap up on Greenbelt Landing and Linnan Park. That's going to be kind of a visioning process for that space, the Greenbelt Master Plan, but then also kind of looking at how that can interact with the work that the Horizon Event Center has done and what they want their future to be, and how we as a community want to envision that space. You know, some of the Greenbelt Master Plan and other planning efforts have talked about extending Swanson Boulevard through there. So taking of that effort to see what makes most of the sense through there, and then getting Porter Shelter planned out so that we can get going on that as one of the next Greenbelt projects. Rio Valley Park, we tended not to rebuild neighborhood parks. We've kind of done a shelter here if it needed, or a playground there. There's not much that's really redeeming in that park now. And so we budgeted money just to redo the whole park. So we'll be looking at a whole design, working with the community to redesign that park. And then we have money budgeted in an out CIP year to do the construction of that. This coming year, we have money budgeted right now to replace the Huntington Ridge Playground. That was the next one up in our replacement process. So we'll be looking forward to getting out there and getting that taken care of here in the next year. One of the things you'll see with the Aquatic Center after the season closes, we'll be re-roofing both of the buildings out there that aren't part of the Greenbelt Landing project. So the community building is going to get re-roofed as part of that. And then we'll do these two probably after the Labor Day holidays sometime. We've been budgeting for 2 years to make sure we have enough money. But that's the original roof out there, 20 plus years old. So it's time to get that re-roofed in. We're looking forward to that. And then finally, one of our strategic plan items from last year that we got to work and finish up in front of you is just an updated report on the condition of the Harbach Center, the mechanicals, overall structure of it, just to give you a little bit more information, as in the future we'll have a decision point on what we want to do with that facility long term.
On that one, I would imagine we're going to pause a little and wait for the school's response. of a larger picture in that area of
Yeah,
usage, right? Before we make a final decision in Arbok, after the sway of
Mhm.
the direction it goes with the school invites us to use the library and gym, that type of thing.
Part of what we want to do with that report is give you the best information. So
have a
You know
rundown
how-
of what that.
how
what
quickly
that
you're going
is.
to have to make that decision.
Yeah.
If
I
the
think
reps,
we're seeing some pretty good operations.
Yeah.
in the Facility and depending on, kind of, it's really where those mechanicals are starting to, how close are they?
Mhm.
And then that gives us time to continue to work with the school district on, what might be the ultimate resolution in terms of providing, we want to continue to provide those services and, work together with the school district in that space. Then what could the Harbach Center become, right? Could we, for example, tear out a portion of the building and add it to the park and maybe keep the apparatus bay as a big open air shelter that's on the park? If we're, for example, working with Crestview on more of a library rec, area. A lot of possibilities for us. It's really just this condition report is what's the runway?
Yeah.
We did some work with DCI a few years ago, with a structural engineer to get an understanding of the building. The building's rock solid. It's really more a question on the mechanicals.
Mhm.
When that next major investment would need to be, because that will then put our timeline together of when we need to get things figured out with, whether it's with the school district or our,
That's been the HVAC is the bad.
mainly. Yeah, it's mainly gonna be the HVAC decision. We have a boiler system in that
Right.
building.
Mhm.
We reinvested in that a number of years ago, but now it was actually when I first got here, so it's 15 years ago, when a lot of work was done to that building. But in 5 years, it's gonna be a 20-year-old system. So it's, before we get to that point, we want to know, again, what's our runway for the big decision that needs to be made at some point.
I'm encouraged by the partnership with Westwood Schools. The dialogue has gotten a lot better and, regardless of what we do, I think that's certainly a good direction for us. We just need to see that report and see how we can implement, incorporate Westwood School District and continue that partnership. So very encouraging.
that's all I have unless you have any other questions.
Anything else for Richard? Very good. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Just a few things going on.
Just a few. Yeah. Bree, we'll start at your end of the table.
Your report.
No report tonight. Eric?
Yeah, a couple different things, Mayor. Attended the Climate Chamber event. Also attended Marriott Hotel. There's an annual event for like citizens as well over up the street. Also attended the Dallas County redistricting meeting. So Matt had sent out what proposed districts were, and those were, that plan was adopted. So moving forward with that, and they'll go in front of the board of supervisors for a vote. So that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Eric.
Council, did you want us to show that video?
Yes, thanks, Pete.
And Richard, go ahead, Richard, you should be able to share your screen and.
There's something that Catch Des Moines put out. I thought you might find some interest.
Well, you can hear it out there.
He's playing it, but I wanted to play it.
It's one of the best series. right here.
I wanted to play it out.
It's one of the newest videos. It just happens to be the Iowa Cubs, Michael.
Are you sure?
What a coincidence.
Stop
Sure, I'm trying. Stop share up there.
Yeah, we can hear you. Richard's over good in the lobby with me. They're trying to turn the volume up.
I'll share screen. Get back to the beginning first.
Oh,
Is there a link?
Yes.
Absolutely.
oh no.
I'd rather watch it. I'd rather-
No, I didn't. All right, now we're ready.
We're gonna send the link, Richard.
Sorry about that.
Michael, what do you have? to
I
report?
have nothing to beat that.
It'd be hard for you. Legal counsel, anything from you?
No.
Matt?
There we go.
You had it.
Go ahead and play.
Okay.
local message to our friends.
In the Iowa Coast. Matt,
Your Honor, just a few reminders of some key dates coming up. Of course, next week, council has their 1-hour interviews with Lyle, the pre-interviews for strategic planning. And then we will have the workshops coming up on August 11th and August 13th. As I indicated, those will be in your new council chambers. And Lyle will be here for that. So there isn't a council meeting between now and then. You'll have your next council meeting on August 14th. So that will be a busy week. We are working hard to keep that August 14th agenda light as much as we can. We will have a couple key items on that agenda though. The Daner site plan and then the stormwater manual coming back. I'll have Pete touch on his conversation with Dan at HPA earlier this week here on his report. So that is coming up. Also wanted to mention the back to school bash on August 8th at Crestview from 3 to 5. That Friday will also be a key date that'll be happening between now and your next council meeting. One thing that also be shared in your weekly update is we have the old Joann's Fabrics location. That property owner is actually looking at a new user. It's more of an active play. It's called Slick City. It's kind of trampoline and active play area. It's kind of unique for our code. It actually, our current zoning code for that district doesn't allow for that particular use. Of course, when some of these zoning codes were put in place, we didn't anticipate some of these new uses. So there's been a request from the building owner, and there'll be some material shared with you and go back around to this particular tenant to look for a zoning amendment to allow for that use. I think it's a good use and a good investment in the space. But just wanted to share that with you all. I know staff is already working on the timeline to get that done, but good to see some reuses of some of our bigger box retail spaces. So that's will be coming in front of you as well. And then lastly, what I wanted to mention is the chairs and your safety hammers. So this is part of the safety award to all staff this year for a really great safety rating that we continue to have our workers' comp insurance. Just from the previous year to this current renewal that we just did, saved the city over $30,000 in terms of premium savings. So to kind of give back, some of those savings are going into these awards. So you'll have your camp chair and a safety hammer and a little bit of addition to your Clive store account for apparel. So it's a $100 award overall for all employees. So again, appreciate our safety committee who also works hard on our safety program as a city, but we continue to have a very low mod factor, which is the key for workers' comp insurance of 0.46, I think. Did I get it right? 0.49, which is extremely low. So again, a credit to our staff for being safe and the kind of the challenging jobs that they do every day. So that's all I have, Your Honor, unless there's any questions.
very good. Matthew, Madison. No correspondence. Very good. Pete.
Had the pleasure of attending the West Point Community Schools listening session on their upcoming bond proposal that will be on the ballot in November. And Dr. Adams sort of ran the show that was listening. There were 4 of their school board members there for that session. They're having another one, I believe, tonight. But one of the themes that came up repeatedly was opportunities to partner with cities where their schools are located. And Dr. Adams and I both mentioned in particular the green space there at Indian Hills Junior High. And Brad Rose, former athletic director there for Valley, he had spoken about how there were some chances to do some things that would be good for their facilities there and the activities for the kiddos. But that also these things could potentially complement neighborhood uses too. This is a very actively used space, and in that same vein, the area around Crestview and around Lanant Park is very actively used too. So I was happy to hear him talking about that, and a lot of nodding around the room when we talked about those types of collaboration opportunities. Matt mentioned it. I did have a nice conversation with Dan Knopp at the Home Builders Association this week. I had already sent him all the material that you all reviewed and responded to from your last council meeting. I sent those immediately after we had the video posted so they can start to consume it. He has shared it with some of the engineers they've worked with in the past and some of the members of the Developers Council. And they'll have comments back to us by August 1st so that then I can prepare those for your consideration during strategic planning as appropriate if we have time. but definitely at the first August council meeting. The primary parts of the conversation were about the low change to a different shape of the storms, so how that water, how that rain is falling, and then that consideration of a change factor for future weather that we anticipate with bigger rain events, more intense rain events. And that builds on to my last point, which Chief Garcia and I had a very productive conversation with the 911 coordinator for Polk EMA, who is tasked with making the Alert Iowa tool better and better for the community. So Alert Iowa is paid for by the state and then made available to the counties so that they can set up a good emergency notification system, text, email, and voice. This was the replacement for Code Red. There has been on Clive's side a good effort to share the information with folks, but unfortunately, we had a sort of tough learning experience when we had our first baby flood this season. We used the system and it went out to only, I think, about 4 to 12 different phone numbers as opposed to the multiple hundreds that should have received. It was a back-end problem with the tool, but we since addressed it, so we feel like it's ready to work for us. But it's only as good as its reach. And in some of our smaller events, when we can't use the FIRS system is something like an Amber Alert, where depending on your geography, if your cell phone is in that triangle or in that polygon, your phone's gonna blow up, right? We can use that now, which is great, when we have an event where it's immediately get people at property, or get people out of harm's way, like big floods. But we also want to be able to use the tool for smaller events. And to that end, we need to keep driving adoption. So we've got a good partner, I think, and this is an output of the flood tabletop this year. We wanted to make sure we kept improving this. So we'll have more to discuss. I think we'll get into strategic planning about how we might be able to execute on an ongoing basis, a campaign to get more and more people opting into this tool.
You know, is that system then by phone number of your home address, or does it go by a geofence where you are live at the time?
Depends. Okay. When you go in, if you were to opt in by saying, we're going to set up a system where you said text Clive to this number, and then you will be opted in to a default set of alerts. We get to pick what that opt-in would be. But because there's no address associated at that point, you would be getting, we could say, all of the alerts that would ever touch the city of Clive. But if you went in and then wanted to set up a smart 911 Alert Iowa account, then you could more customize the types of alerts that you would receive. Pros and cons to both. One that I'm wrestling with right now, and the chief and I talked about with the Polk County folks, was say that polygon where the tornado's coming or where the storm is coming, your house is just on the edge of it. Right now, the way that the system would work, it would only blast out to people who had associated their number with a particular geography, a particular address. But in that situation, for me, I'm close enough to it that I'd really like to understand what's going on too. So we'll have to make some of those types of choices as we understand the pros and cons of different setups. I do think most people, if we're trying to drive adoption, won't actually go to the next step of setting up an account. They would just text something to Clive and then expect to get those results, like those things. So we just need to pick what are those default settings that we want everybody to get when they do that initial sign.
I saw, not that this would have done any good. Well, would have if there was the worst storm, but Clive Fest, you all Steph did a great job managing that piece, where, right, with the storm coming in, what do? Do you shut down early? Do you watch it? But you got a lot of people there, right? All in one place. So that type of system I can see is a major asset. If at a time that storm would have got worse, much faster.
Yeah.
That's a heck of a lift to get those folks to safety in time. And right. Again, you were doing it live that night. I watched your decision process and it went well, but a system like that, and if it was geofenced or could be geofenced to hit, now you got a lot of guests from out of the city and type of things, but enough phones would have gone off. But
Oh, yeah. And that's where it would be, if it was severe enough, the FERS system would be the right way to do it. Now, we can't activate that on our own. Right now, we need to get permission. And we have a system that we're documenting well now for how we would pursue that. It's as simple as a phone call down to the duty officer, Polk EMA, and then they would enable it for us.
And that would just be, it would just hit any cell phone within that area.
It's great technology
Yeah.
when it works.
Well, I'm glad to see you guys got some learning lessons on that. There's hiccups and everything, but the point is being able to learn from that, move on, and make those course corrections. So
Anything else, Pete, or any other questions for Pete?
Oh, yeah.
Any other items for the good of the order before we say farewell to our temporary? Hearing none, we'll adjourn at 7:31.